In addition to all of you here at the Glass House, we have a huge, as you know, social audience with us today. We are in fact live streaming right now on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and we have messages coming in from global citizens all around the world. So we are excited to be here, and thank you so much to all of you right here in front of us with all your iPhones up. I see you. I am so honored to be here with Attorney General Letitia James. I know you're very, very busy. Yes, please. I know you're very busy, and we so appreciate you carving out time to have this very important conversation that I know is deeply rooted in everything you represent. It has been 5 years since you were elected Attorney General of New York. Did it go fast?
Very fast.
Very fast. As someone who's long fought for women's rights when it comes to empowering women, what is your main focus today?
Well, first, thank you, Tamron, for the question, and thank you for hosting this event, and thank you for all that you do in empowering women. And I, of course, want to thank global citizens and everyone who is here today. A woman can't be free, cannot be empowered unless a woman has control over her own body. And so my focus is ensuring that we have access to reproductive care. It is my body, and obviously the issue of choice is of major concern to individuals not only in the great state of New York, but all across this nation. And as the Attorney General and as someone who cares about women, I will fight like hell to protect access to reproductive care. It's my body and my choice, no one else.
To follow up on that message, we know the Supreme Court recently decided that the abortion pill will remain available for now. But we also know that this issue is far from over and it's far from settled. How likely do you think it is that medication abortion will eventually be banned?
So let me just go back. One, this decision was made by a man from Texas, a conservative judge, a religious man. The plaintiffs did not have standing, as far as I'm concerned, did not suffer any injury. They wanted to challenge mifepristone, which has been on the market for 20 years, so there is a statute of limitations issue which was ignored. The decision was not based on law. The decision was not based on precedent. The decision was based on, again, the conservative values of this one judge who substituted his religiosity as well as his ideology for that of science, that of law, and 20 years of experience. So the Court of Appeals in the 5th District stayed his decision, put some restrictions on mifepristone. The United States Supreme Court got it right this time, and decided to stay that lower court's decision. There will be a hearing, an argument, in the Court of Appeals in the 5th Circuit on May 17th. Until that time, mifepristone is available. Abortion is legal in the state of New York. The abortion is in our Constitution. I've asked the governor, and she's agreed we're going to stockpile mifepristone and miso, which is the second pill, here in the state of New York. Individuals are coming from other states because this is the state which will stand up for reproductive rights and a woman's right to have autonomy over her own damn body.
To that point, you highlight the state of New York, but we know 13 states have banned most abortions. What do you think the future of reproductive rights looks like for women across the country?
So, listen, I've said it before and I've said it again. I had an abortion when I was young, like these young people out here. And it's really up to young people. It's up to the next generation of individuals. You know, I think about what happened in Tennessee. I think about what happened in Montana, these young people who stood up and stood up for democracy. It's really in the hands of young people. Every movement in this nation, no, in this world, has not been started by old people or politicians. It's been young people. The power really lies in the hands of young people to stand up and to make a difference, to vote and to make sure their voices are heard, and not to be silenced and not to allow any individual to define what democracy looks like. Democracy looks like what is in this room, and democracy obviously is something that all of you should demand. And this is the moment, this is the time, given attacks on reproductive rights, the attacks on our environment, attacks on the LGBTQ community, attacks on all that we represent, hate crimes, etc. The fact that we are more divided now than we've been since the Civil War. Individuals need to stand up and demand that our democracy looks like a more inclusive and more empowering community. And the only way that we can do that is if young people demand it, just as they did in Tennessee, just as they did in Montana, just as they are doing now, more and more young people standing up. And I know in this room, all of you who believe in a global community, I know that all of you have the power and the compassion and the fire in your belly to make a difference. It's up to you, and I'm looking to all of you, and I will be with you, cheering you on and leading the way, as old as my ass is.
You're incredible.
But I look good.
We're speaking of the people in the room, the young people and those who are 52 and my old ass too, I guess, since you said it up here. We have questions coming in, and one from Global Citizen in the audience, Julia Wanamaker in the U.S. She's asking, how can we fight for women's rights in the U.S. and or globally as different states are making their own decisions regarding women's rights to abortion and to their bodies?
So, Tamron, can you believe that a woman of color, here I am defending states' rights. How ironic that is, right? We're in the midst of defending states' rights. And so as the Attorney General of the state of New York, we file a lot of briefs. We led the way in filing the brief in the Court of Appeals in the Fifth Circuit, along with some other like-minded attorney generals. It's important that individuals not only vote, but that you know who your governor is. You know, we tend to vote just in presidential elections, but I need individuals to vote in local elections and state elections, and also to know who your state attorney general is. How many of you know who your state attorney general is? If you're from New York, don't raise your hand. If you don't. So I need you to know who your state attorney general is. You know, we've got some Republican state attorney generals who don't believe in the causes that I believe in, who don't believe in our values, who are fighting us on issues of diversity and inclusion, who are fighting us on a wide range of issues. Recently, I stepped in, I joined and led an amicus brief in Louisiana, representing a community that was facing a very large an environmental issue, where this textile company wanted to build the largest textile company in the United States in a community of color where it was a cancer alley. And people were dying left and right. And because they were a poor community, the previous administration, not this administration, wanted to support that textile company. We won that lawsuit. And now this president, unfortunately, has rejected the application. The point is that individuals need to know their local elected officials, your city council, your assembly, your senatorial district, your attorney generals. Don't just vote in presidential elections. I need everyone to be involved. I need everyone to raise their voice. I need everyone to speak out. I need everyone to challenge policies that unfortunately are foreign to who you are and what we are trying to build, and that is a more perfect union.
I have more questions because you have talked about women's equality in the workplace. A bill to ban questions about salary history during the employment process was signed into law in 2020. Why was this an important step in closing the gender pay gap? And are there further laws you'd like to see enacted that would further women's equality in the workplace? But first, break down why that ban was so important.
So before I was Attorney General, I was City Council and I was Public Advocate, and I introduced that law. It bans questions with respect to salary history, because women should not be defined by their last salary. And because what we are witnessing, not only in New York, but all across this nation, is the feminization of poverty. More and more women who are living in poverty, one, because they have no control over their body, two, because again, their salary is based on their previous salary. And here in New York, that question now is illegal, banned. They can no longer ask that question. You should be defined and you should be paid based on what you bring to the table, your worth, and not your previous salary. We are seeing more and more individuals living in poverty now, and we need to address it. In addition to that, as you know, I've been involved in a number of sexual harassment cases of companies and of powerful individuals. And we also need to focus on laws which engage in wage theft, discriminate against women who are pregnant, unfortunately don't pay them a fair salary, and we need to promote more women into a number of industries. You and I talked about real estate, the lack of women and the women of color in industries. There was an event here last week of real estate bigwigs. There were hardly any women, and definitely no women of color. In addition to that, we need more women in C-suites. We need more women partners. We need more women in corporations. The list can go on and on and on. We need to talk about universal child care for individuals. We need to pay women, again, prevailing wages, and we need to increase the minimum wage here in the state of New York. I can go on and on and on. But if you really, really want to empower women, you need to respect women, you need to hear women, you need to let women roar, but most importantly, you need to let women control their own bodies.
Yes. We are almost out of time. I have to talk about the fact that you are a history-making Black woman, the first Black woman to hold the office of Attorney General in New York State. What advice, yes. What advice would you offer to the young people out there who are interested in holding office or other leadership roles? Perhaps they feel that they don't have a chance to be in the room, but you are proof that you not only have the chance, you are empowered and you don't shy down or shrink down when you enter the room. What is your advice to anyone who says, I don't see myself in that room, I don't see anyone who looks like me in that room, whether it is gender, whether it's race, whether it's religion, I don't see me in that room?
I'm just a humble woman from, is Brooklyn in the house? From Brooklyn. I ran for city council because the issues of low-income women were not being addressed, and I thought more women of color should be elected into office. I ran, as you know, on a third-party line and was elected to the city council. And then public advocate, there had never been a woman of color elected citywide, and I decided to run citywide. And there had never been a woman who had run statewide, and I decided to run statewide. But that means absolutely nothing, the fact that I'm a history maker, because the reality is it's nothing more than a historical footnote. I stand on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm. I stand on the shoulders of Constance Motley Baker. I stand on the shoulders of one of my great heroes, Barbara Jordan. All of these are hidden figures. All of these are women who you may not know about. Shirley Chisholm, who once said, if they don't invite you to the table, bring your own folding chair. I say, create your own table. Constance Motley Baker, who was an attorney who was part of Brown versus Board of Education, who was one of the attorneys who desegregated the University of Georgia, the University of Mississippi, who was the first Black woman to serve as Manhattan Borough President and was the first Black woman to desegregate the district court here in Manhattan. What about my Barbara Jordan, who gave that speech at that DNC, the Democratic National Convention, who said, the Constitution is whole, it's complete, and I'm not gonna sit by and idly allow anyone to subvert the Constitution. when she was on the panel to basically impeach Richard Nixon. Yes, it's women like that that I admire. Women whose voices roar, women who are not afraid to speak truth to power, women of courage, women who are pillars of strength. That's what I look forward to. That's who I admire. I'm just following in their shadow. I'm nothing more than a historical footnote. I'm going to continue to speak truth to power and stand strong and represent those who've been locked out of the sunshine of opportunity and those whose voices are ignored. But I'm going to roar, because I'm from Brooklyn.
Have you always been this unapologetic? Was there a light bulb moment? Because obviously people are looking at you from around the world, and most people don't see themselves as an individual who can roar in the room. Hopefully you get to that point. Were you like this at 2, 3, age 4? What was that light bulb moment where you felt like my roar is in me and I'm not going to hide it?
I look around this room and it reminds me of my mother, whose transition, may she rest in peace. My mom had a 5th grade education and used to clean rooms like this. She used to sweep. She used to mop the floors of large places like this, all by herself. And she would call me and she would say, you know, come meet me and help me. And I would be there with her. And she always told me, I remember her Social Security check came in one day and it was like $5 short, and she said, call them up and tell them I want my $5. She just taught me to stand up and fight. My father too. And so it's just that I don't like bullies, which is why I stand up to certain bullies. A bully who will not be named. And 2, I just like standing up for the little guy and people whose the odds are against them. And I just like a good fight. I just love a good fight. I always remember there was an attorney general from a certain state in the South, and we would be at meetings, and you know, most of the attorney generals in this country are men, and she kept apologizing for saying something, and I just hit the table and I said, will you stop apologizing for speaking up? Ladies, don't ever apologize for speaking up. Don't. Let your voice be heard. And walk into any room, ladies, and own it. And make sure they see you. But most importantly, make sure they hear you and that they feel you. Because we do run the world. Thank you.
Thank you, New York Attorney General Letitia James. Wow.